gotta make it out to Vegas, where the lights shine bright. Vegas, in the clear desert night. Vegas, where they can make you a star. Vegas, at the NFR.
NFR Extra is a podcast dedicated to the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo and features icons and personalities that embody the Western lifestyle.
But the one thing I'll give him throughout our career, no matter what I'd done, he was game to try. Now, he might not agree or like it at the time, but he was always willing to do whatever I come up with. And he would go, I don't like it, but I see how it might be good, but I don't like it. And then you take in and you bring in cows that we run 20 and we didn't make a clean run. His confidence got shattered because of the way we were practicing. Is not the way he'd ever done anything. But the one thing I'll give him, no matter how crazy out of the box I set up, he was game to try. Now, he voiced his opinion. He didn't like it, but he never once said, I'm not doing that.
This is Brylan Bentley, and you're listening to NFR Extra.
It's always a great day when you're joined by two world champions, and today it's a great day. Speed Williams and Rich Skelton, thank you for being here with us on NFR Extra.
Morning.
You all are early arrivers. I love that.
Well, we just want to make sure I have my daughter here before she leaves, getting all this hooked up so I don't mess something up.
I get that.
Oh, gosh, that's awesome.
Technology is hard.
It is when you're 55 and never used it, or 58.
Yeah, I don't know how long it took me to get him a text message.
Yeah, a while.
Girl, can I just text you that? He's all, yeah, give me a phone call, please.
Hey, in the old days, he did not text. Yes. Just call me.
I can't wait to talk about that in this podcast because it really does baffle me that you guys had to go through so many hoops just to enter a rodeo, let alone now you have two people involved entering a rodeo. I could only imagine how much more complex that can be.
Well, back in the day, you had to stop and use a payphone. And that's it. You had to spend a lot of time stop instead of driving.
You didn't make it home by Monday morning, 9 a.m. You had to stop at a payphone.
So that quote from Blazing Saddles about somebody going to get a bunch of dimes, that wasn't a lie then.
No.
It was way better to have a calling card where you just had to punch in about 14 numbers.
Oh, man.
Jeez.
The worst deal we got into is my father-in-law was when Speedy and I first went to the Northwest the first year. He gave us a bag phone, and it was a company bag phone. And he said, use it just if you need to or whatever. And hell, the first month we used it for trades, call home, did everything, and it was $1,200 and something for the first month's bill.
Oh.
He called and he said, you mind sending that back home? Back home. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's like one of the satellite phones now.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy to look at, with me and Andy, we've got young kids, but you'll be watching a movie and those kids, what is that? Where are those phones at? The payphone deal. And, that was kind of the tail end of our generation was the payphones before everybody got cell phones. But yeah, it was the calling cards and everything like that. You go get like you said, the prepaid card and, you have 2 minutes left. And it's like, awesome.
Mm-hmm. The funny thing is about, a year and a half ago, I had a storage unit that we had a bunch of stuff in it and over at it for 15, 20 years. And we went and started digging through it. And my daughter's never seen bag phones, never seen them big old, what they call them, the camcorders that went on your shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's all kind of junk in there that wasn't no good, but she'd never seen them. And she'd just be digging around. What's this? That's some of the stuff that got us to today.
So speaking of history, how did you two first come together? Because You know, I know Speed spent a lot of time in the Southeast, and that's where he kind of honed his craft. But what brought you two together to start this team?
Well, the way I think it really happened is when we started, was going to the Northwest, and we was open when Speed was heading for Clay, and I was heading for T Woolman, and it's one of those deals that they had both won championships, had kids, and they wanted to, be home and not spend 6 weeks in the Northwest. And we just went up there and went to some rodeos and got to doing good. And we got home. I guess everybody just decided for us to rope together at the finals.
So everybody made a good choice, it sounds like.
It
turned out all right.
Seemed like it worked out good for us.
Yeah, rightfully so. What was, if you guys had something to where when you started roping, it was like, this is it. Is there like a moment or a rodeo or something that was just like, this works? You know what I mean? Because not just going off of, because believe it or not, what everybody says usually doesn't work out to be as good as this particular thing did. But when was the time of like, okay, we got something special here?
Well, truthfully, we weren't supposed to stay together. We was only supposed to rope those 6 weeks in the Northwest. And when we got home, we were practicing. We had 2 or 3 days once we got home, and the U.S. finals opened, and I called to enter with Clay O'Brien Cooper. And I come back and I said, hey, Rich, they've already entered together. Do you want to call T, or do you want to enter the U.S. finals? And he says, well, let's just enter together. Because we was at a stage in life that we were both married. We did not have kids, and we both wanted to rope. But going into our first national finals, we were going in just to rope, have fun, and try to win as much money as we could and get ready for next year. And then the Thomas and Mack fit both of us so well, and we did really good that first year. And then, after we won our first world title, it was like, hey, we can do this again. And everybody was talking about it was a fluke, that we would never win another one, and was a chip on the shoulders to try to prove them wrong. But Lord and behold, we never dreamed we was going to win 8 in a row.
But the cool thing is like Speedy had Viper, and I had just bought Roni, and we like Sweet said, we didn't have kids, and everything we did was focused towards that. And and Speed thought outside of the box a lot and showed me. We started roping. We did a lot of crazy things. We had rope fresh muleys. We had a snow fence up. We was just and I've always had trouble keeping speed on my rope down my whole career. And so the one thing when we started roping the fresh wild muleys, it made me keep speed on my rope. And the first 2 or 3 days I couldn't hardly catch one. I thought it was going about it crazy, and then it started coming together. And then we got to Vegas. Everything played out good, because then we had fresh wild steers at home, and we got to Las Vegas, and then big old slow steers. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. So, I have to give a lot of credit to Speed for thinking outside of the box and getting us going the right direction before we went.
Now, Speed, do you feel like your horsepower changed drastically in order for you to be able to win a world title?
Well, I had a horse that was a freak. He was so broke. You could go anywhere, anytime, any motion. In the Thomas and Mack, that's what you got to have, one that can pull up the wall and finish and face. And he cowed, and he read the cow in the building. We're going to get real technical about it, but when the gates bang, a lot of horses anticipate the gates banging and either go early, back away from it, move. Viper watched the cow, and whenever the cow left slow, he would read the cow and go slow. And if the cow left and run, he really run. And it really was a huge advantage in the start. And then he was so broke. I did all kind of things the first couple years because he broke to the pen. He went close to the cow, and I wanted to go the middle of the box. And after we'd won 2 or 3 world titles, I quit trying to change the horse. Hey, this is going to work. He showed me that going inside, I didn't lose my rope. I took a little more time for things to happen, but we still able to be 3 or 4 seconds in the run. But, that horse, he wanted to go to the cow, and if he went left, the horse kept his lane. So that's what made it real special with the horse. He would go right, he'd go left, he would read the cow, but he was able to keep the cow moving in that left wall where Rich had a timing and a reaction coming back up the wall. And then I had a great horse, Bob, outdoors, which was a workhorse in our deal for all the ropings and rodeos, long scores, and Viper got all the indoors. But there's so many things to it, like Rich talked about earlier. I always try to prepare for setups, and I always try to set the situation harder than it'll be when we compete. Now, Rich left out a little bit. The first couple days, he was mad, pissed off. And this is crazy. This is all kinds of stuff. But the one thing I'll give him throughout our career, no matter what I'd done, he was game to try. Now, he might not agree or like it at the time, but he was always willing to do whatever I come up with. And he would go, I don't like it, but I see how it might be good, but I don't like it. When I showed up to his house, he had a set of steers that weighed every bit of 650, 700 pounds that had a pattern, and he knew what they would do every time before the gate opened. And I said, Rich, we're not practicing that way. And he goes, what do you mean? He could catch 20 in a row every time, and then you take in and you bring in cows that we run 20 and we didn't make a clean run. His confidence got shattered because of the way we were practicing. Is not the way he'd ever done anything. But the one thing I'll give him, no matter how crazy out of the box I set up, he was game to try. Now, he voiced his opinion. He didn't like it, but he never once said, I'm not doing that. He was willing to do whatever it took. And we roped in the mornings, we roped after lunch, and we roped in the evenings. Every day we were home, practice, preparation, and then I would ride my good horses different ways. I didn't turn cows for him on my good ones, but the one thing I will say, even though I'm, like he says, I'm out of the box, he was willing to do whatever I come up with to try to make the team better.
So it was borderline an abusive relationship is what you're saying.
I didn't make it easy. He made it easy in the practice pit.
So if you're roping that many times in the day and you're watching your partner just deteriorate, did you just let him soak in that, or did you have like words of encouragement at all?
The first few practice sessions, it was as you could, if you had his wife in here, you could get a different opinion of how. You got to realize what a different setup I brought to the table compared to the way he had always done things. But we had been winning, so he was willing to try it, even though he didn't agree with it, if that makes any sense at all.
It does.
His willingness to do it, even though he was pissed off, he was willing if it thought it made it better.
Rich, do you rope better pissed off or in your comfort zone? Because it sounds like you rope pretty good in both scenarios, but this pissed off thing might have been in your advantage.
Well, one thing about it, I mean, he's right. It didn't do my confidence very good. But you know, like Speed said, it was, you know, after 2 or 3 days, you could kind of see how I got to, like I say, riding my horse better, swinging my rope better, doing everything, you know, to get ahead of the steers. And like I said, when we got to Las Vegas, when you're roping fresh, wild 400-pound muleys, a friend of mine brought us a trailer load, and we had 25, 30 muleys that never been touched. And we get back to there and went to roping them. We put a snow fence up. If I missed, they'd go through the fence. We spent more time building fence than we did. Then we figured out we might need panels. That's when Prefer come in.
So not only did he have the good old-fashioned version of the Helo-matic with his steers, that you didn't even have panels up.
Didn't have panels or nothing. I mean, that was Speed's idea too, making the arena the same size NFR. You know, we'd roped in, you know, a lot of places, but the angles are so much different at the Thomas and Mack. And when we did that, and you take the smaller arena, fresh wild muleys that's never been touched, it was pretty complicated for a few days. But
I had a few meltdowns. But I'll tell you this, the 8th or 9th round, we were walking in at that time, the South Point Casino, to get another buckle that we had won the round, and it looked like we had a world title won. And it's the only time Rich ever looked at me and he goes, "You were right." Like slow motion back there healing now. And he goes, "I did not like that one bit, what we were doing practicing for here, but it does seem like slow motion." And that was the only conversation we ever had that he goes, "You were right. I like it."
Now, wait a minute, Rich. I have to hear about one of the ideas that didn't work. I need one of the harebrained ideas that did not.
I would have to say the top one of that's the snow fence. We had no idea. I'm telling you, we went in town. I didn't even know they had snow fence in Llano, Texas. But we went and found some. We put it up. We put some T-posts. We put the snow fence up. And Speedy had turned one, and I'd miss. They just swing in there, and we'd have to get off, fix the fence. And, I guess it saved our horses because we didn't run very fast. But it actually, I can say it worked out good in the end.
Speed, where did these ideas come from? Were these just, when you say outside of the box thinking, is that crazy dreams or what?
Driving down the road, I don't listen to the radio much. My mind's always working on situations. I'm always running situations in my mind of how to overcome, how to do things. I've always been a thinker, and it's like, how can I set up situations that will help me down the road, from taking the steers with their head turned to doing all kind of things. But if you want to hear one idea that did not work, I went to the roping one time, backed in the box. The steer jumped out of the chute. Well, when he jumps, you got to react and you got to give him a little more time. Well, I tried to figure out how to make the steers jump. So I dug a little hole right in front of the chute and put a water hole, like a mud hole there, where some of them would jump out. Well, I had one jump and turned sideways, and I T-boned him. And when I was pulling all the dirt out of my ears and my head, I covered up that hole. And that's one issue we never done no more again. Rich wasn't there in the practice pen for that one. I was working on my own horse, doing some things, but always trying to figure out how to set up situations that would help me react and overcome things that would happen at the rodeos. And my partner was always willing and able to try them, but he would voice his displeasure with my ideas. But fresh cows is our weakness. Reaction. You don't know what the cow's going to do. You don't know where they're going to go, how they're going to handle, how they're going to set up. And that is something we worked on all the time, was having fresh muleys. Because the muleys you can buy, rope them for 45, 60 days, take them to sell, and you make money. The steers, you lose $200 to $400, depending on what time the market it is. But practice is about preparing obstacles. It's about overcoming things that will happen when you leave home. And I've always been a believer in your weakest link is the steer that's going to take you out. So a slow steer, a steer goes right, steer goes left, or one that runs real hard. We had a steer that goat hopped real bad at Rich's house, and we run him high teamer, George Strait. High teamer, world title. And he was tricky to heel. Run up, had good horns, turned, and then, we run a lot of high teamers on the bad steers that went to the right, lower headed. So throughout our career, high teamer at Salinas one time, we had one of the worst cows in the herd. We had 14 seconds to catch him. And I'll never forget, we're running down the arena wide open. I look over to Rich. He's kind of behind me a little bit. And I said, "You didn't draw very good."
He's talking to me as we're going down the arena. He said,
he had a long time before we was going to catch up.
Yeah, we had a while. So, but just like Speedy's saying, that's what I was going to say is, I remember that distinctly. It was like he said, we'd practice on the worst steers, hardest ones. And we had one, and one winter, we had a lot of steers like that. We had, when we'd go to the rodeos, like Denver, San Antonio and all that. And there could be one or two steers in there that wasn't good or just or hot funky or something, and we're just so like, I mean, we got it that winter, and it just but we got through them and it worked out. But it's just funny how things like that after you practice it does show up.
Let's take a quick pause, and we'll be right back. Want to relive the best NFR moments from the last 37 years? We've got you covered at nfrexperience.com. Check out the NFR History tab at the website for a walk, or should we say gallop, down memory lane. You'll find images, recaps, and videos from the greatest moments from the last 37 years in Las Vegas. From Ty Murray to Trevor Brazil, Louis Field to Casey, Charmaine James to Mary Berger, Fred Whitfield to Joe Beaver, and everything in between, you'll find it here. There's something for all rodeo fans. Check it out at nfrexperience.com, because legacies and memories are made in Vegas.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. One of those titles, did you guys? You only won like 2 or 3 rodeos the whole year. Is that? Am I remembering that correctly?
I believe that'd be the last world title. We never was in the top 50 to after Reno, and we never led the world till the last cow at the Thomas and Mack.
I mean, now with an 8-year span like that, how do your two personalities come together to make you successful? Because to me, it always looks like Rich, and I don't know you as well as I grew up around Speedy, but you have the duck mentality. You're just smooth on top of the water, but you may be paddling like hell underneath. I don't know, but what is it about your personalities that come together that made you guys successful?
Well, I don't know if it's so much, it's one thing like Speedy's talking about. Everything he done was preparation. And the thing that I think that helped us most, and we had to struggle a little bit down towards the end of it, is our horses. We had great horses. I mean, Speed, like I said, Speed had horses. Viper was great for the NFR. Bob was great at Salinas. I had 2 or 3 horses that was good anywhere. They'd work. I was fortunate they'd work inside, outside, and our goals was the same. I mean, we got up every morning. We roped. We either practiced, or we went to we was going to roping, or we was going to a school. Everything we were doing was focused on our career and what we wanted to obtain, and we could do that by all the horses and how we was focused. And so to me, that's what made and like Speed said a lot of times, there's been 2 or 3 times at the NFR the ball could have bounced the wrong way and we could have lost it. But I mean, we was fortunate, and the ball bounced our way and we went ahead and won. But I think our goals and our horses is what made everything go the right direction.
Is there one of those memorable moments that truly stand out over the 8 years, whether that was overcoming something or just a change in horsepower, just a change in rigs? One of those moments that you were like, oh man, we got to keep going. We got to keep pushing.
To me, it's the first world championship. I mean, I've been pretty close 2 or 3 times and didn't get it pulled off. And then we won it. And then, and then the 7th and 8th one, Jake and Clay was so good, and we tied them, and which was pretty cool at the time. And then when we actually won the 8th one and pulled it off, to me, the first one and the 8th one was probably the coolest.
That's pretty impressive to be able to dedicate your life to something that you love and to be that successful in it. Was there ever a time, you talk about the first one being and the 8th one being same as far as the importance, but was there ever any time in between there towards like, man, we got to reassess this thing? Like something's, be it home life or horses, something that caused you any thought to where like, maybe we need to take a break or do something different?
Well, our goals were aligned with, I knew Rich wanted to win a world title. Towards the end, that's where we got a little different, was after our 8th world title, our next year roping at the finals, I got hurt. 2005, I had a horse fall on me and pinch a nerve in my back. When we roped at the finals in 2005, I asked Rich to get somebody else because I couldn't drink a glass of water with my right arm. whenever we roped at the finals in 2005, and I was hurt bad. The ligament had got pinched, and when we got it set back in, I had no strength in it. And Rich, we both had kids on the ground. We had year-old babies, and towards the end is like, I want to do more schools and be at home more. And he was still craving to win a world title and rodeoing, and I had lost both of my good horses were down, and I wanted to chill just a little bit. But when we were winning, we had the horsepower, but you got to understand, we both had the same goals in life. So practice, preparation, compete. And so that was when everybody asked, but winning overcomes your difference of opinions on different things, because he had one rodeo he used to want to go to. I did a lot of the inner. Pecos, Texas is nowhere on the map when you're in St. Paul, Oregon, Cody, Wyoming, Red Lodge, Montana, Livingston, but they have steer roping at Pecos.
And that was my first pro rodeo I ever went to.
And so that was an issue with us. So one year, you want to hear a funny story? One year, he's like, we got to go to Pecos. I said, I'm sending my good horse to the Northwest to go. We got rigs. And at this time, you buddy with people, and you've got 3 or 4 rigs on the road and the whole thing. Well, we got to go to Pecos. Well, Pecos don't fit in this itinerary at all. I said, I tell you what, we'll go run 2-day monies. No matter what we do, we're turning out the short route. The only way I got him to agree that we turn out the short route. Well, we go win the first round, split the second round, we're winning the average. Rich, for 4 days, we have 2 hours and 15 minutes from the time we rope at Cody, Wyoming. We're roping at Red Lodge, Livingston, and Cody all the same day. And then we're going to go to Pecos, Texas that night. I'm out. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. Rich is on the phone nonstop. He ain't worried about no other rodeo, no other rig, nothing. That's the only thing that he is after is Pecos, Texas, how we can get it done. He is on the phone all day for 3 days calling. He calls me back and says, hey, we can make it 2 hours, 45 minutes. I said, we only got 2 hours, 15. If you can't do it under 2 hours, 15 minutes, we ain't doing it. Hey, he finally finds Roy Cooper, Tommy Guy. They find the fastest Lear that'll make it in 2 hours, 10 minutes. We have 5 minutes to spare. It's going to cost us $5,000 to make this rodeo, $2,500 apiece. The rodeo only pays $3,500 to win. We've won both rounds. We won $5,000, and he wants to put all the money to go back down there to Pecos. He is hell-bent we're running the short round at Pecos. Hey, we go through this. He calls Mac Altizer. Mac gets an event put in between. He ends up getting fined because he puts another event in between for the team roping. We fly down there. We start off at Red Lodge, Montana, and we're running late. It's the last before Cody. We'd already done Livingston. Red Lodge slacked that morning. Rich said, we got to send a rig on to Cody. We're going to fly over. Now, at Red Lodge, Montana to Cody, Wyoming, there's a lot of mountains. I'm like, all right, Rich, whatever you want to do, we'll try to do it. Hey, they pushed this little puddle up over there and take it off. And I mean, it sounds like a rubber band is running this plane. And I said, that better not be our ride. He goes, oh, no, that's not our ride. Well, you know what? In about 10 minutes, they pull it right up to the gate when we rope at Red Lodge. It's right at the plane. He said, oh, that's some bronc riders or something's going to reuse that plane. Our plane ain't over there yet. After we rope our steer at Red Lodge, we climb the fence. Guess what? We are on the little bittiest plane I have ever rode in my entire life. And the wind is blowing 35, 40 miles an hour when we come into Cody. Hey, this plane is rocking back and forth, and I'm holding both sides of this plane as we're coming down. And I'm not saying nice things to Rich. Like, it is rank landing.
It was.
Like, it's in with the wings to the ground, the whole deal. Hey, we hit the ground. We have a shuttle picks us up. And I mean, the parade's going. It is road construction. We get to the arena at Cody, Wyoming. I'm going to say 2 minutes before we get on our horse, and we get smoked at Cody. We got a runner, no good. We get off, we hustle back, and when we step on this leer, everybody else is seated. Before we get to our seats, it is going down the runway. It takes off. This is bad. Like, it just goes straight back over where it went. And when they come down, they run all the way over Pecos. And when it comes down, it's like a movie. They take it straight to the ground, just straight down. We hit the ground. We get there 10 minutes before we have to rope. We have a no good running steer. We got like 12 seconds to win the rodeo, and we're 11 something. We win. We break even for our whole trip.
Yeah.
And then we got to get on a plane that night and fly to St. Paul, Oregon.
So it's all about points. We got
So, okay. What also I'm hearing is that Speed had ideas in the practice pen that pissed Rich off, and Rich had life plans that pissed Speed off.
Yep.
Rich did not plan a lot. Speed was in charge of all of organizing the rigs and the whole deal. This is the one time Rich was adamant we were going to do it. I was just, okay, you have been on the phone for 3 days, but I gave him a time limit. He had to get us from Cody to Pecos in 2 hours, 15 minutes. We roped in 2 hours, 20. If you can't do it under that, we ain't doing it. And by George, he got it done, because I'll tell you what, you have no idea how many hours he spent on the phone trying to find that plane.
We need to find that buckle from Pecos. That needs to be tagged in this this podcast.
No kidding.
Did you keep the buckle? Is it framed in the house? Like, I think that one should have its own box.
Own box. There you go.
My man, he got it done. I was not for this. It logistically doesn't make sense. And that's one of the issues me and Rich has had in the past. Points and money. It's got to make sense on paper to do it. No, we go to Pecos. It don't make sense logistically on paper. We're going to spend more than we can win at Pecos. We got to go to Pecos.
Now,
that's one of my favorite rodeos.
You guys created a trend, and it still continues today. Speed, your style obviously fits your name, and guys throwing over the chutes, we see more and more of it. But talk a little bit about your style and what kind of possessed you to try that? Is it your upbringing or kind of the battles you faced in the Southeast at some of the amateur rodeos? Where did that come from, Speed?
Truthfully, it come from my dad. He rode a lot of colts and riding horses. When I headed for him, he wanted the rope on the steer when he come out in the tunnel. If you went past 30 or 40 feet down the arena, he'd pull up and go back to the box. He didn't want his horses running fast. He wanted them to turn right there. And I headed a lot of steers for him in the practice pen. But in the summer, it was so hot, we couldn't rope during the day in Florida very much. So I built me a calf lane down there out of one of my mom's old cow barns. It was only 14 foot wide, 12 foot high, and 90 foot long, but I had an indoor calf roping arena. And I run a lot of calves in there and just learned to throw really fast all the time in there. And, you know, we rodeoed back east in basketball courts. We have rodeos there in Greenville, South Carolina, and Asheville, and different places that are in little bitty buildings. And I don't remember the one that was actually literally on a basketball court, and that was the arena was set kind of cornered. But learn to throw fast. All the rodeos out west before the NFR went to the Thomas and Mack in '85, you had to be able to be great long score to make the finals. The guys that could go fast could never make the finals because you had to have a different kind of horse. When you come from the Southeast to the West Coast, everything was long scores, 20, 22-foot boxes, and it was a whole different math equation. So that was the whole thing. There was a lot of guys from back east that could throw fast but could never make the national finals rodeo. But, you know, the style understanding, I love math and angles and trying to create angles. And you talk about Rich being tortured. I got a son that I've converted from heeling to heading, and all the situations I do to him in the practice pen. My daughter's rodeoed all year this year with being wounded. She had a horse fall with her in October and messed her foot up and her knee. And then she had one fall on her again just about a month ago and rolled on top of her. Jersey slowed down, but they're both run through scenarios all the time, trying to prepare them. But it's just the way I'm wired to think about preparing for an event. But I'll say it again, Rich did not agree with a lot of things that I come up with, but as a team, he was always willing to try to do whatever.
Yeah, that worked out well for you guys. And that's the hard part too, is, you get the unknown scenarios that pop up like that. And there's always something that's available to happen that doesn't work out for the best. But from the start of your guys' relationship and your career together to what it is now, this is one scenario that has seemed to work out incredibly well. And as you are now looking back on a very successful career, what does the word icon mean to you guys to be celebrated as an iconic team and iconic Cowboys celebrated in Las Vegas, Nevada?
Well, for me, the cool thing would be is one, we was very fortunate, and it was cool for everything to work out for Speedy and I, and that's something in itself. But then when you get to add us to like Ty Murray, Trevor, Charmaine, Cody O, guys, people like that, Joe Beaver, it's those are people that everybody looks up to. And I guess if you're thinking about it yourself, sometimes you don't put yourself, I know we look up to, we take it for granted ourselves, but, I look up to them guys, for what they've done in their career, and Charmaine, and how they, everything's how they've got to what they, how they accomplished everything. And it's pretty cool to be in the same situation as they are, and y'all looking out for us, and stepping up and putting us in that category, I guess you'd have to say. But it's it's very, very cool, for that all to happen, to be with that group of people.
Absolutely. Speed.
I don't look at myself as an icon. I mean, I'm a Florida boy. My son really don't like to hear that because he is Texas 100%. But he gives me heck about it. But, my dad was a cowboy, and I always claimed to be a team roper because, the cowboy to me has a different, the word cowboy, what it means to be a cowboy. But icon, I guess I don't really have that realization yet. We'll understand that more, I think, after work with Thomas and Mac, to be able to put yourself in that mental capacity of being there. That's like getting inducted to the Hall of Fame there at Colorado Springs. I really wasn't prepared for what all that was. It was pretty overwhelming once you were there and you experienced that. I guess that's a question I can answer later, because I can't really answer something I really don't feel yet, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Sure.
Well, something to chew on from now till December.
There you go.
Yep.
What does Las Vegas mean as a whole to either of you? I'll ask Speed first, but I do expect a little bit of an answer out of you, Rich.
I got it.
For me, Las Vegas meant a lot of work. Do not realize that your day starts early. And if you have a successful run and you win the round, all your plans that evening with your wife, your sponsors, your family, all changes. By the time you go to signing autographs, the gold buckle deal, the presentation, getting to bed at 1:30 in the morning, time you get everything settled down, getting to sleep, and then your morning starts again early the next day with autographs and different things. It was a whirlwind of people do not realize how much goes on behind the scenes and how much help you need behind the scenes to make that deal work. And moving around in Las Vegas during the weekdays from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock is very difficult. very difficult. And if you forget something and have to send your wife back to the motel to pick your back number up, there's a lot of factors involved with that. And for us, it was a life-changing moment. Our first world title, I cannot begin to tell you what that meant to us both. And then to come back and have that much success at the Thomas and Mack for that many years, no question about it. I live off those rewards. I do private lessons, teach people to rope. I kind of quit rodeoing a little early because I wanted to raise my kids my way. And I never made them rope, but I bribed them. If they wanted to go to the movies, or if they wanted to pick a place to eat, or if they wanted to go do something, they could earn it on a horse, roping, this, that, and the other. We was all in on the baseball, the whole deal, softball, and then they chose to rope. But Las Vegas, getting to experience that now with Haley last year, and hopefully soon with Gabe, he turns 18 in October. Woo, that's what me and Mama was talking about the other day. If Gabe does make the finals, we both know how much work that takes to do that. So much for our Vegas time, because Haley's not in the Thomas and Mack with the breakaways, so her deal starts before it in 2 days. So then we kind of have a little off time between the ropings and the things going on in Las Vegas. The last few years, I've enjoyed Vegas more than ever because it's not 100 miles an hour. But when you're competing at the Thomas and Mack, it is very busy days.
I can only imagine. I watch all those contestants day in and day out, and it is truly impressive to see you guys come in and take over the city, one, but two, to see you just shine bright in that arena and also shine bright in every atmosphere, whether that's at the buckle ceremonies, whether that's at your autograph sessions, and truly just be there for the fans in every way, but also have to be there for yourself. It's truly impressive. Rich, what about you? What does Vegas mean to you?
It's the same as speed. You know, it's one of them deals. For me, it was, you know, I see it nowadays. I see it more now than ever. You know, what Speed was talking about with the sponsors and things. That is actually the 1 week that we could actually give something back to our sponsors. You know, because when you're rodeoing and you're on the 4th of July and things like that, you don't have time to go help them. But that week, that's when to me, that was when you needed to step up and go help them, because they help you all year. And, you know, and you have to spend time, you know, like get up, go out there, sign autographs, go to 2 or 3 different places. And as long as you're roping good, everything was really good. But where it really threw a curveball is when you wasn't roping good, and we'd have to go practice, run a few steers. So then you'd have to do what?
When a man got a leg, we had to. Yeah, he would get upset. You got to realize this man did not rope many legs at the Thomas and Mack, but when he roped a leg, all of our plans changed. We had to go practice the next day.
Let me just squeeze that in between brushing my teeth and roping at the Thomas and Mack.
Right. You know, there's a lot goes into moving your horses, going to rope, come back. But, you know, that's one of the things that made Rich great, was if things didn't go according to plan, he wanted to go to the practice pen to work it out.
Well, I can promise you one of the most iconic lines in the history of the NFR is, if you want to get rich, you got to have speed. So we appreciate you guys for all the memories, and we can't wait to see them hang your names up in the rafters of the Thomas and Mack.
Want to experience more of the NFR? Then visit nfrexperience.com, and we invite you to subscribe to NFR Extra on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you're listening right now. If you like what you've heard on NFR Extra, we would love it if you gave us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe.